Hello and welcome to this new episode of Vuelogs Crosscheck Podcast. We have a guest today that we've been waiting for quite a while because we had to postpone this episode a few times. Once it was my fault, and then once it was the fault of an Antonov 225. Is that even important? It's just an aircraft. Anyway, with Alex and Soplane already on the podcast here before, of course, it shouldn't take too long before we had Daniel Sender on the podcast. So let's go see who we have on the show today. With over 5 million views and over 500 spotting videos and trip reports, Daniel Sender is a true passionate AV geek, or as he calls himself humbly, an aviation enthusiast based in Scotland. Today we will get to know the man behind the camera himself. Welcome to Vuelogs Crosscheck Podcast, Daniel Sender. Hello Daniel, welcome to the podcast.
Hello Robin, how are you?
Not too bad, thank you so much.
Good to finally be on the show.
Yeah, I said it in the intro. The first time was kind of my mistake because I made a mistake with scheduling the podcast, and sorry for that. And then last week we were supposed to meet, and then some like small aircraft came to your airport.
Small aircraft,
some totally not important aircraft at all.
No, it wasn't important at all.
What happened last week?
Well, the Antonov came in. They were literally the largest plane in the world, an AvGeek dream to see. So, like, every AvGeek wants to see this plane, and it was just, had to be postponed. Completely worth it. It was great to see. Hasn't been in for 8.5 years, so, it was great.
Fantastic. What happens to an AvGeek when the Antonov shows up at your local airport?
Usually a bit of excitement. Sitting there, like,
a little bit,
right, preparing for it, getting the cameras charged, and just looking forward to it. Just go to the airport, you sit, wait for it to come in, get it going out, and then you come home after it, and you have to take in what you've seen. You're like, wow, I can't actually believe this came to my airport.
What was the Antonov?
Some site. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
What was the Antonov coming to do at Prestwick?
It was in a fuel stop. It went the base in Ukraine to US, then to Prestwick. It was Bangor, went into Prestwick. Somewhere in France, I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name because I can't pronounce it. So there's no point in even making a fool of myself trying to pronounce it. And then it went from there to Tel Aviv in Israel. I think it was carrying, it was all over their media. It was carrying trucks to get weapon systems fitted. So if it comes back through when it's going back across, hopefully. But we'll wait and see. Should be good to see it again if it does turn up.
That's some interesting payload there.
Yeah.
Something different than all the COVID PPE they've been carrying over the past couple of months.
COVID PPE and oil rig systems and machinery is usually what these Antonovs tend to carry. Or cars, even like, I think a couple of years ago, the 225 was used for a racing show or something, and they had to take a load of cars from A to B. Don't know where it was, but yeah.
It's a fantastic, phenomenal aircraft. Unfortunately, I've never been able to see it myself, but if you compare it to something like an A380, the largest passenger aircraft that we currently have, is it that much bigger, would you say?
Not in terms of height. In terms of height, it's definitely smaller, but it's definitely wider and longer. The A380 is very fat. Like, it's a very fat-looking plane compared to the Antonov. Like, the Antonov's it's just in a class of its own. Just nothing comes close. It's 6 engines, and it's quite low down as well. And it's actually got 2 pillars. It looks like pillars that hold the wings together, and it's just a marvel to see. It's one of those things you're like, how does this even fly? It's like something this big fly at like 36,000 feet, it's mind-blowing.
Oh, definitely. One thing that I discussed with Nick, with Soplane on the podcast here a couple weeks ago, is the state of Corona, the COVID-19 in Scotland. Back then, when Nick was on the show, I think Scotland was still in lockdown. How has the situation been for you for the past couple of months?
Well, I think Scotland, I think when Nick was on, we might have just been coming out of stage 1 into stage 2. Because Scotland's lockdown didn't actually end, like, right at the end of May. So, like, England, Northern Ireland, and Wales, which are other countries that form the United Kingdom, they'd all kind of came out before, England first, obviously. And we didn't actually come out until, like, the end of May. Then we went to stage 2 at, like, the end of June. So now we're in stage 3. But there's been a couple of localised lockdowns. So there's a city up north, Aberdeen. They've had a massive spike from one of the pubs. It's about 100 cases in the past couple of days there. City's now in lockdown for about 2 weeks. They say 7 days, but it'll definitely be longer. Whole city's in lockdown, back to square one. But apart from that, everywhere in Scotland's fine. Where I live, Ayrshire is the region. It's 40 minutes from Glasgow.
Yeah.
We've actually been okay. Glasgow was quite bad during the lockdown, but Glasgow seems to be okay and kind of went to what we were during the lockdown. So we've actually been okay. There was a little outbreak in Prestwick, across the road from my work, in a GP practice right at the start of lockdown. But apart from that, that was fine. It was just a couple of doctors that got it. They had to close the surgery and deep clean it. But things seem to be on the up here, and hopefully by September we could actually have rid of it up here. Like they have been talking about Scotland being COVID-free eventually before anyone else in the UK. So fingers crossed, but we'll just have to wait and see.
That would be fantastic for Scotland. But what does that mean for travel? Because I've seen like England closing the borders, or pretty much putting a quarantine on people coming back from Spain. How's that with Scotland?
Spain's already in. Well, like if you come back from Spain, cross the UK, lockdown, you have to quarantine for 10 to 14 days. Nicola Sturgeon, Scotland's leader, she's already threatened on numerous occasions that she will put it on in England, because England, the UK regions, England's by far the worst affected. Not just because of the biggest population, but because they've come out of lockdown too quickly. And a lot of people are saying that as well. So I know this might be touching on politics a little bit, but basically the way the COVID thing is, it's a very tense situation, because the devolved administrations don't necessarily get along, especially in Scotland. It's a bit of a sticky situation up here. But Nicola Sturgeon's went, right, if he's don't listen, the border's getting shut, country's getting locked down until it's away. Look at New Zealand. They're doing really well. They're pretty much COVID-free now. And that's what we could hopefully be like, providing everyone listens and follows the rules. So hopefully.
But that would mean for you, Daniel, that you are not going to be traveling for a while.
No.
When did you take your last flight?
Would have been March. Yeah, March, literally just before lockdown came in. So I went to Sweden, went in Avro RJ100, which actually happened to be its second last commercial flight. Still to put the video up for it, of course. Next day, got back, flew back into Edinburgh, and then the day after that, flight cancellations, lockdowns in different countries, and everything just went crazy. Like it was like bam, COVID, mid lockdown, every country just went into gear, and then that was it. No one's been able to travel really since. Even though the flights have restarted, it's probably not worth going if you have to wear a mask and extra precautions, and it's hassle that's not really needed. Like I'm fine just saving up and waiting until things are back to normal, because then I can just enjoy flying again and how it was before. So that will be one of those instances. Time will tell when things go back to normal.
Yeah. Wow. You kind of glanced over it, but I think it's worth mentioning there. You said something about an aircraft you flew on that then immediately got scrapped after.
Yeah, the Avro.
Yeah.
Airline called Braffin's Regional. One of the main reasons we actually went to Sweden was to see Braffin's fleets. Obviously, we do a bit of plane spotting and see the city, and then obviously we managed to get a really cheap flight to clear this aircraft. They have cleared the RJ85 last summer. Still to put that video up, right? But I'll get onto that in a sec, like trip reports when we move on to that. But flew on it, and it turned out it was the second last flight. So we filmed it departing later that day to somewhere else in Sweden, and then it flew to get scrapped like a week later. And it was really a really good flight, and it's just a shame. But to fly in an aircraft like second last flight, that's history. That's pretty much an avgeek kind of lost words here, but you know what I'm trying to say.
I think so. I don't think I've ever come that close to a retirement. I think if I would compare, it would be the Dash 8-100 that I flew on just before COVID started, and then when COVID hit, Air Canada was like, okay, all these aircraft, we're gonna just speed up the retirement. So literally the last chance that I had, I took.
It's the same with us in the Avro, because they were meant to be going at the end of March anyways, but COVID just accelerated it, so it was fine. But the aircraft that's been hit so much, I mean, I was actually booked to come to Canada in May this year, as you already know, in passing for Edmonton. The 2 747 flights, both cancelled, both airlines withdrawn them, Virgin and KLM. Like, the 747s have just gone like that. Like, there's barely going to be a 747 operator next year. And if you've not cleared one, then it could be tough luck, like myself. Like, love to clear one, but it might just be tough luck.
I read somewhere that there's only like, 37 commercial passenger 747s flying around.
Pretty much, going from like a couple of hundred just a few months ago. It's crazy. Well, you've got Lufthansa, who's withdrawn a few. British Airways are pretty much the large 747 operator. All of them are supposedly going. KLM, they were going anyways. Virgin, they were going anyways next year. Corsair, next year. All brought them forward. So all you've really got is Lufthansa, British Airways, Air China, Thai Airways, and Wamos, which is a charter airline. Korean. There's 5 airlines. Korean withdrew theirs, I'm pretty sure. They've got the 747-800s. In terms of 400s, it's the airlines, but I think 800 is what we've got. Air China, Lufthansa, Korean, and there's one more. Or is that it?
That's it, I think.
Pretty sparse then.
Have you flown one before?
No. I
man.
was Virgin flight, upper deck economy class, perfect engine view, flight cancelled. KLM, perfect economy comfort engine view, flight cancelled. Just no luck whatsoever. Gutting, to put it lightly.
Oh wow, sorry.
Yeah.
That hurts. That really hurts to hear, Daniel.
It's pretty brutal. Like, basically, plan was to do this big trip to Canada, do nothing else for the rest of the year, and save up for. Well, I was going to save up for a car, but obviously couldn't go to Canada, so plans get changed around a little bit. And one of the other excuses I had for not coming on the show was I was sorting a new car, as you know,
yes.
Which I now have, which is great. Long story short, I've got a new car. So some things happen for a reason, I guess. So.
That's great. At least you got something out there. But what was the plan to... So you would have probably flown to Toronto then from Amsterdam.
It's actually a weird one because it was a through ticket. So it was cheaper to book a ton of flights. And then, so it was meant to be Virgin Atlantic 747, Manchester to Atlanta to Toronto, Delta MD-88, which has now been retired as well. WestJet to Calgary on a WestJet 767-300. That has also been retired.
Yes.
Flair 737-400 to Winnipeg.
They're also getting sparse.
WestJet 737-600 to Edmonton.
Also.
And then back to Calgary, Dornier 328 or Beechcraft 1900. But that was a roulette anyways, that flight with Central Mountaineer, as you know. Like, that's a bit of a roulette. It's either Dash 8, Dornier, Beechcraft, or whatever else they've got. Just stuff it on the route. Then going back, Air Canada 777-300ER. Back to Toronto. Then was meant to be tying in an MD-90, however, decided against it. They're also now gone. And then back to Amsterdam and Manchester. to Amsterdam on a 747-400, and then a 737-900 back to Manchester. And I was supposed to be flying down or getting the train. So flying down with Flybe or getting the train down.
Mm-hmm.
And then Flybe's also went under. So pretty much everything in that trip has now disappeared or went under. It was literally like one of those. It would have been insane, but now it's all gone because of COVID, pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Just shows you the impact of COVID. It's really affected a lot of things, and you don't realize it when you think about it, and then when you put it into perspective, like, whoa.
Well, if you look at like the trip reports you've made so far, like you were able to catch some things that no longer exist. Like you have flown on Flybe, you have flown on Thomas Cook, you've flown on the Air Transat A310 and the BA 767, and those are all things that also no longer exist.
And the Iberia A340s are actually going at the end of the year, so I've cleared that one as well. And the Saab 2000, there's a lot of cleared. The Fokker 100 as well. The list is pretty big, but
that was in
I think
France,
the A310
right?
is probably
the
the Advantier. It's been operating for Air France for about 3 years. Found the cheap flight and eventually booked to go down, which was worth it. It was really good. Done the 70 as well years ago when it was 14, 15 KLM, but that was ancient, ages ago. But the thing, the A310 was just one. I was like, I had to clear that plane, and I came across last year. That was top of the list last year. Was the 310, and I'm so glad I cleared it.
We can actually watch a clip of that because I wanted to show a part of that video because, interestingly, that was the first time that you started doing voiceovers on your videos.
Yes, it was.
And you see it happen quite often with other people who are doing trip reports. They start out with text on screen, and then they slowly change into doing the voiceovers. Nick was the same. Alex
as well. Yes. Alex actually drew the inspiration for me to do it. Mm-hmm. In terms of like the music style, that changing my trip report style, that was Nick. But in terms of voiceovers, that was Alex that helped a lot of that and gave me the kind of inspiration for it. Asked him the questions, and he's like, "Give it a try." And surprisingly, well back then I had this £20 headset because I broke my other goods headset. Was moving furniture around in this room and fell over the headset, snapped it in half. Was walking around the room, straight over the headset, into that wall there. Bit painful, but got a cheap headset to keep me going. The mic quality was good, but when for the return flight Air Transit trip report I had to get a mic, and that was this one here, this Rode mic. And then eventually bought these headsets a couple of months ago, just because the other headsets were really small, like they were literally that in my ears. Right. Tiny. Mm-hmm. So these headsets, this mic, so much better. It's perfect for doing what I need to do.
That's perfect. Let me share the screen with you.
Yep.
Can you confirm if you can indeed see YouTube?
Yes, I can see that.
Excellent.
Yes, I can see that.
Let's watch a couple seconds here.
The tray table was large, which was great compared to some of the newer aircraft out there. A unique feature in the A310 is the big screen in the middle of the cabin, which is more common on older aircraft types compared to newer aircraft types. Another perk of Option Plus is that it comes with a free amenity kit. This amenity kit contains a bag, a blanket, headphones, a blow-up pillow and an eye mask. Now I'm going to explain why I've went for Option Plus instead of Standard Economy.
So this was your first time doing a voiceover. I asked Nick the same question, and he said, "Oh, pretty much my views have tanked ever since. People hate it." How has your audience received the change?
A lot of people have taken well to it. Couples seem to prefer text, but overall voiceovers seem to be the way forward. Like most people, like the direct reports that we said, have evolved into voiceovers thanks to like the vlogging style that seems to have been pioneered by a couple of the big ones. Like you've got Blake, you've got Paul, you've got Noel, Jeb Brooks as well. Blake and Jeb Brooks are probably my kind of favourite trip reporters, I'd say, out of like the big ones. The big ones are more known ones. And Dennis. Can't forget Dennis and Paul.
For sure.
But like, it just seems to be the way forward, and they took well to it. The views were always hit and miss. Like this, like some videos do well, some don't. And I think the most successful trip reports with the voiceover have been the trip to France with the Fokker, and when I took the 300 flight, the 2 Air Transit ones, and the EasyJet one I done a couple of months ago, which was my last trip report. Just haven't had the time to. Well, I've got one edited. I just need to do the voiceovers for it, which I've just haven't had time to. But the EasyJet one's doing pretty well, and the voiceovers people seem to be taking well to it, which is good. The thing with voiceovers as well is you can convey more. So people say like, well, you're like quite a humorous person. I think I'm kind of funny, right? But folks say you can convey it. You're a really funny person, and like you can convey that more with the humor on it. I mean, I hope I've conveyed some humor on the trip reports a little bit, but people say I'm funny, so it kind of helps a little bit, and I can convey a different perspective or a different take on it than I could with text, because you're just reading text off the end of a screen. You're not really, you just have to take it as it is. You don't know what it sounds like. The voiceover just adds a whole new layer, just a whole new level to trip reports.
Absolutely. And I love the toilet mirror shots you do. What do you say then?
the funny story about those is they're actually been heavily requested. They're not my favourite shots to do in the trip reports, but they always seem to get requested. So I've kind of had no choice but to include them anyways. So basically a couple of years ago, done a trip report, it was text, and I got the flight for a Senate and I went to Vienna from Gatwick. There was like 3 comments in that trip report. Oh, where's the toilet shot? Where's the cabin shot? The toilet. There was no toilet shot in it. So I had to I did it for the flight on the way back anyways. So ever since then, I have to include a toilet shot in it, because I always get comments, oh, where's the toilet shot? So the toilet shot is just a little pan. And then maybe just like me saying, oh yeah, it's a toilet. There's nothing special about a toilet. It's just a toilet. And I think people seem to have taken to that, because like, they're not my favourite shots to do, but like, folk want to see it. So I kind of show I don't want to do this shot, but I'm showing you anyways, because this is what you want to see. Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it.
I mean, the king of the toilet shots is so plain.
Yes, he literally invented the toilet shots on planes.
Yeah,
he literally has invented them. What was it? Put at 30,000 feet or low time, 30,000 feet.
Laviator.
And then there's the flat. Yes. And then you've got the flush thing as well, rating it out of 10. It's literally Nick that's invented that. Like, he's this, and the legroom, he invented that as well. You move your leg from side to side of the thumb. He invented those 2 parts of trip reports, and everyone does them because of Nick.
Yeah. Because Nick is a friend of yours.
Yeah, really good friend of mine, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I actually seen him last week when the Antonov came in, but like, because of lockdown, we've had a trip like every year now for like 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
But because of lockdown and everything that's going on, we're not going to get one this year, which is annoying. But because last year we done LATAM business class and Ethiopian, we done it with someone called Fergus, who's also a good friend of ours.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually the LATAM video that's out next, but anyways. And then the year before we done the Hainan. So we were thinking of doing something this year, but because obviously seen him in January, went to Japan, went away to Sweden and Bristol, and then lockdown, and then only seen him for the first time when the Antonov came in just there. So it's not been great. Like, COVID is literally just throwing everything out the window for the year, which is which is bad. But what can you do?
Yeah. It sucks.
Yeah. COVID is... Best way to put it is it's been a really weird year for me. I don't know about the same year. It's been a weird year. Like 2018 and 2019 were great years. A couple of rocky bits as you get in every year, right? But 2020 has been one of those years. It's been weird. Nothing necessarily bad has happened, but then it has, and it's a strange one. It really is a strange year, I'd say. Like, anything's possible this year, and we're already in August. It's flown in as well.
Yeah. You started trip reporting in 2017, right?
Yeah.
But you've been on YouTube a lot longer.
Yeah, like 2011.
September of
I had the channel, yeah. I had 2 channels, and I think I made this one. It used to be called Scott Rail 82 on YouTube, and then I rebranded right at the start of last year. So it was better. Everyone knew who I was. There was no point in keeping that username because everyone knew I was Daniel Sander. So there was no point in keeping that, but everyone knew who I was anyways. So, but basically, I had this other channel. It was a weird name, and like I used to do train stuff and plane stuff on it.
Mm-hmm.
Then I deleted that channel and moved over to the one I'm on now, and I've been on that ever since. So my late 2011 videos are mostly trains. They're all privatized and a couple of like old camera ones. But the first one that's actually like on YouTube is probably February 2012 was my first video that's actually still public on there, and it's quite a popular one as well. It was quite good. And then I actually had a year gap. Done October 2012, had a year gap, and then I've been doing it really properly since 2013 since, and built it up to nearly 10,000 subscribers over that time.
And you've got over 5 million views as well.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It's
Congratulations. That's very good.
I think I've recently just passed 5 million views.
Yes.
I know 10,000 subscribers is imminent, especially the Antonov video last week.
Yeah.
But I know it's imminent. I think I'm in 9,600 and something. So it's coming.
You've been growing really fast over the past couple of days, haven't you?
Yeah, really fast. Yeah.
How many subscribers have you gained since posting the Antonov video?
Well, the week before, one of my Prestwick videos actually spiked randomly. So I was getting subscribers and traffic from that. And then that kind of went up. I was like, great. That was tailing off when the Antonov came in. So then the Antonovs came in. That's picked up again, went down. And yet the Antonov's still hammering in the views, which is great. I can actually check for you right now, give you live figures. So, just to put this into perspective. So the August growth has been 285 subscribers, mainly from this Antonov video.
Wow.
Pretty much on average 25 a day on average, which is insane figures.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
That is...
The joys of living near one of like the most talked about airports in the world. Just through the traffic it gets.
Yeah. I want to show your first video currently the oldest video you currently have on your channel. It's not, this one's only being watched about 1,000 times. I'd like to hear from you because that was 8 years ago.
Yes, the classic intro.
Yes. So let's watch a couple seconds here, and then I'd love to hear from you, like from where you were back then to where you are today. Like, what has happened to you?
For starters, a new camera. You hear that click sound as well?
Yes. Love the engine sound there.
Yes. They are the original. Wait, what's that?
The original, yeah.
They're the original RB211s. Like they're like the original ones that are on like the first generation 747s. They're like the first ones. But I had a nickname for that camera back in the day. I called it the Fuzz Buzz because every time I was getting a video, it'd always go out of focus or in focus. It would just go in and out focused constantly. So like nickname for it was Fuzz Buzz because it made the buzzing sound as well. Like it was a good enough first camera. It was just one of those bridge cameras you get, but came a long way in terms of equipment over the years.
Mm-hmm. What is it that you were using back then?
Good question. It was
it like a more Handycam or
no? It was a bridge camera. It was Fuji film if I ever pronounce it. It was like an S3400 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was camera was ancient, and then I went on to DSLR filming with the microphone I've got now. A couple of years later, same tripod I've got as well. DSLR didn't work eventually, the dust spots, and it just became too much to film a DSLR. So I went from my first camcorder, 2015. That broke in 2018. The motor gave way and the whole equipment got flooded in Lisbon. Full thunder showers, 2 foot of rain, literally within like 5 minutes. Equipment completely wrecked, apart from lenses.
Oh no.
So picked up mic was fine as well. So lenses and mic were fine. That was good. Batteries and all that, they were still fine. Needed a new camcorder and DSLR. And I've now got a 4K Panasonic HV870, which they don't make anymore. But when I got it, they were still selling the last production one, so I got it pretty cheap. And that's been my camera since. And I've had it for 2.5 years now, pretty much.
So you've come from a long way.
Yes, long way. Well, later this month, probably once I'm paid at the end of the month, I'm going to look at a new microphone. When filming the Antonov, I wasn't too happy with the audio format, so I had to tweak a few bits on it. I'm like, it's time for an upgrade. 6.5 years out of microphone is really good, so I'm like, you know what, time for something else. So new microphone coming soon. Don't know when, but as I say, end of the month I'll start looking at it and see what I can find.
Isn't that the curse of a plane spotter? Always having to buy better equipment?
Not really. As the saying goes, don't replace it if it's not broken. But it is showing its age and it is time to be replaced. It's making kind of weird sounds that I need to cut out, like weird kind of humming sounds every now and then. I'm like, yeah, it's not worth keeping. So I'll get something that's better, more up to date, and just can really like take my videos a little bit up a level. So camcorder's fine at the moment, but
right, yeah,
microphone, big thing for me.
And the camcorder, is that also something that you use for your trip reports?
Yes, I film all my trip reports handheld. Don't film it with a mic, I just film it with a camcorder. All like in-flight shots in terms of like takeoff, landing, some of the cabin shots, they're all filmed on the camcorder. Mm-hmm. The rest's filmed on my phone. I've got an iPhone 8. I'd rather film these shots on the phone in the airport because it's more discreet and you know what people can be like if they find your video and stuff. That's a problem with trip reports. Some trip reporters go right in with a full camera. I just do it on my phone. It's just a little bit more discreet, and I don't want people to kind of have a go at me or anything like that. I just kind of want to do my own thing. And if it's on the phone, they're probably not really going to pay much attention. And the thing is, though, you know what some people can really be like with filming.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yes.
I mean, I don't know if you've had any problems before about it, but I've had a couple of security ones say, "Oh, what are you doing on your phone there?" It's like I was taking a photo, even though I was just taking a clip of the board. I've had that a couple of times, but really, apart from that, not really anything else. And a couple of flight attendants asking what I've been doing, I've just explained it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's fine."
Yeah, I've only had an Air Canada crew member once specifically telling me that I was only allowed to take outside shots. Like window
Do you know what?
shots.
Actually, thinking about it, I had an Iberia crew say that as well, and I just said to them what I'm doing. I was like, "Look, I'm just filming experience, film the outside shots," and I showed them a clip of what I was doing. And they're like, "Oh yeah, that's fine." This was actually my first flight in business class. When I done the 340, I got it really cheap. Bit of a bargain hunt, you see, but we'll get onto that. So they were like, "Yeah, don't film us." I'm like, "No, that's fine. I wasn't filming you. Don't want to. Rather just film my experience, film it at the window." And they're like, "Oh yeah, that's fine." And they were nice about it, and it was actually a really good flight. And then I spoke to them at the end. I was like, "Thank you very much," and like, "Yeah, that's fine. Have a good stay." Because it was weird. Because they thought I was on holiday because I'd kind of went like the Scottish accent might have thought, "Oh yeah, he might have been on holiday," but I actually wasn't. I was away, but like. You would think I was like properly on holiday, but it wasn't really. It was just a quick flying trip and then back home. So, but they were really nice. And I actually would say they're actually surprisingly all right to fly with. A lot of people slate them, but I had a good flight with them and would fly them again.
I've never flown with Iberia wide bodies. I've flown with a couple like narrow body A320 aircraft and Iberia Express. It was fine. Nothing special.
Yeah.
And definitely nothing worth to spend more on if you can fly Vueling for less.
Yeah. I would say the same with our business class. Like, it's not, well, if you want to call it wide body, yeah, and wide body experience, yeah, that's a good route to do it. But Iberia is not really an airline that's it's massive boundary industry standard setting. They're just an airline that kind of gets you from A from B. They've got a good enough service, good enough food, friendly enough flight crews, and if they're cheap enough, they're worth it. But if you're wanting like full on injury leading like service, don't fly with Iberia. But most people are just looking from getting to A to B, have it as long as the food's good, comfy enough seat, friendly enough crew, they're pretty much happy enough.
Yeah.
Especially us that aren't av geeks, especially the normal people. Well, we're normal, but you know me.
I mean, are we?
Everyone's unique.
Yes.
In their own way. Everyone's unique in their own way.
But like, you call them like flight trips, like flight. It's not really a holiday. I see you sometimes just look at Flight Radar to try to find where routes. One of the videos that you posted was on that unknown Irish airline. How did that came about?
Literally 2:00 in the morning. I might have been finished work. I was like, just have a browse on my phone. I'm like, wait a minute, that's operating for Aer Lingus on my phone. I'm like, have a look at that on the iPad. Came up on the iPad, decent enough price. I'm like, book. But it was weird, right? So for that trip, it was cheaper for me to go Glasgow to Belfast, right? Mm-hmm. Belfast to Malaga, and then to Malaga to Paris Orly, then fly directly from Edinburgh to Paris Orly. Like, the flight from Edinburgh to Paris Orly was like €250. I'm like, I'm not paying that. And like the four flights to get there were only, well, 3 flights to get there were like, you weren't even talking €150-180 like altogether. Like, the Vueling one was the cheapest. Mm-hmm. You know, it was just so much cheaper. And then to get down to where I was going, which was Lourdes, a couple of days there, it was actually took me by surprise. Really nice place.
Yeah.
Of aviation history and a very kind of religious place. It took me by surprise, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Because like the Fokker 100 that you flew, and then the unknown Irish airline, I don't even know what they're called.
Like ASL Airlines Ireland.
Yeah.
We mainly operate freighter flights. So like here we've got the Royal Mail, which is like postage, and they mainly operate the flights for that or contracts. And it's the same with another airline called West Atlantic. But ASL also operates some passenger flights. And you know the Aer Lingus 757s that have just been withdrawn a couple of months ago? They were operated by ASL on behalf of Aer Lingus. So they've now been withdrawn. Now ASL seems to have gone to a freighter-only airline, and they're converting all these planes to freighters and will return them to service. The 757s. The 737 I flew on is now with some private jet company in Lithuania. So I don't think they'll be doing passenger stuff anytime soon. So it was really good to get on it, especially a couple months later, been withdrawn, and only try to report off it pretty much on that route.
It's like everything that you touch or are planning to fly on gets retired.
Yes, it seems to be a common theme. The Fokker I flew on is also not with the airline now. That's with that's in, I think it's Beccair, the one that had the crash in December last year. That Fokker went to them not long before the crash. So that's with them. So pretty much most of the planes I've flown on last year have been withdrawn, or this year have been withdrawn. It does seem to be a common theme. I don't know why, but it seems to be a common theme.
I definitely note that. That was quite interesting. Something about, yes, I did want to ask you something about your drink, because that is something you also mentioned in your A310 video in Brew.
Yes.
Or what is so special about it?
It's Iron Brew. It is literally Scotland's drink. It is, nothing comes close to this. This is literally the best drink in the world. Like, it's great. Probably drink too much of it, to be honest, but I mean, you can't go wrong with Iron Brew. It's basically, do you know how you've got Coca-Cola, Pepsi? It's basically Scotland's equivalent to that. I think Canada used to sell it, but it get banned. Same with the US. Like, apparently there's some chemical in it or something, and I don't know. and then we've banned the US Coke over here because apparently there's something in it, and then they've banned the UK version of Coke. It's a messy thing, right? But basically, Coke has dominated every country in the world apart from Scotland. Iron Brew is still the top drink, but they changed the recipe a couple of years ago, and Coke has closed the gap, but it's still the most popular drink. Like, nothing comes close to it. It's hard to describe the taste. It's just Iron Brew. Nothing comes close to it. It's such a unique taste. It's really nice.
Because you mentioned it in the video.
Scotland,
oh, for sure. Because you mentioned it in the video, like, oh, I definitely brought my Iron Brew on board.
To be fair, I think that's on a lot of my trip reports. Oh yeah, here's my bottle of Iron Brew. Here it is in my hands like that.
I had literally never heard of it before.
I mean, there's actually a lot of places that do sell it. Like, you know, the Emirates flights to Glasgow.
Mm-hmm.
You know what half the exports off the flight are? Is whiskey and Iron Brew and fish.
Really?
Yep. Iron Brew is really popular. You should honestly try it. Get some exported across. Costs you a little bit, but worth getting it exported and trying it.
Huh. Well, I'm in Europe next month, hopefully. So I might try to get it there. if they sell it at Gatwick. Do they sell it at Gatwick?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Pretty sure they do. They'll sell it in the WH Sniffs. The thing with Iron Brew is in England is it's sold in all the shops, but it's not sold in like pubs or restaurants or anywhere like that.
Mm-hmm.
Up here, it's sold everywhere you can think of: shops, restaurants, pubs, because it's that popular. Because it's either Iron Brew or Coke they go for, or Pepsi. But everywhere else is always Pepsi or Coke. Mm-hmm.
Oh, definitely here as well in Canada. If you get a pop, you probably get a Coke. So that's very
When I was
interesting.
across last year, it was just Pepsi I went for, really,
Mm-hmm.
mainly. I prefer, I don't mind Coke, right? But I think Pepsi's just nicer. Everyone's got their own preference.
I think that was your Thomas Cook trip report where you drank like how many cans of Pepsi?
Too many. But it was free. It was in premium economy. And it was free drink. So I'm just like, drink. I was like, shouldn't have done that at all when we're in the airport because we had to wait 2.5 hours just to get through border control. Mm-hmm. This was before they had those self-scanning screens and all that. I mean, I know this was 4 years ago, but it was a nightmare just to get through. And I was like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have drank as much Pepsi as that. But looking back on it, but you know what? Like, it was free. I'm like, us Scottish people and maybe the Scousers as well and the Geordies, we love free stuff. So if it's free, you're obviously going to take advantage of that. Like, it was free drinks. I'm like, yep.
Oh, the Dutch aren't any different. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Incredible. How was that anyway?
You can't go wrong with free stuff.
Oh, yeah. How is that anyway? Because I have never had the chance to fly Thomas Cook. How is that?
Well, they went under in September there. Do you know, they were actually okay. Like, the legroom was pretty good. The IFE was limited though, and the food was decent though. The food was actually really decent. I really liked the food we got. The seats were comfy. It was just the IFE was pretty limited. The crew were friendly, and that was just apart from that, it was fine. Like, but they felt very kind of leisure sort of airline, so a bit like Air Transit. Like Air Transit's leisure, so was Thomas Cook, and they were closely aligned with leasing planes and whatnot. I don't know if you've been to the airport and you've seen a Thomas Cook Air Transit end with like yellow engines. That would probably be a Thomas Cook plane on lease, but they were very similar airlines, had very similar setups of like the IFE system and everything like that. But Air Transit was just better. For their system was a lot better. Thomas Cook, they both felt very holiday-like, and they gave you that feel. But the crew were also really friendly in that as well. And they were, I would say, Air Transit and Thomas Cook were very similar airlines, but Air Transit was better than Thomas Cook. But if Thomas Cook were still around, I would fly them again. Like, if I was going to American holiday, it'd be them or Virgin Atlantic I'd fly with. Or TUI if they were cheaper, but I'd try and fly with Virgin or Thomas Cook.
Because the holiday airlines pretty much got invented in the UK, right?
Yeah, pretty much. the thing with the holiday airlines is there's only really one traditional around now, which is TUI, after about 5 name changes from Britannia. And then the other one you've got is Jet2, which Jet2's basically just came in and just swept up all these routes that the airline from online, because Thomas Cook and Monarch were very much traditional travel agents where you would book in the travel agent. Jet2 was a mix of both, travel agent and mostly online. And that's where they've done well, is because they've been online, adapted when they've came in to the UK. And Jet2's just swallowed up all these routes, got loads of second-hand aircraft and took on all these staff. So the holiday market's still really strong in the UK, just there's a couple of less airlines to fill it.
Yeah. Yeah, we've lost a lot of airlines over the last couple of years. And aircraft, yeah. But even pre-COVID, thinking about Thomas Cook, that was before COVID.
Flybe was just before COVID. They say it was COVID, but it really wasn't. It really wasn't. It's like, oh yeah, we've went under partly because of COVID, and you're like, weren't you in financial difficulty like 2 years ago? And there's been, I don't know, someone trying to buy you out for about 1.5 years now. But
it might have been the final strain, but it was definitely not. It was definitely
not COVID.
No. What else did go under recently over the past?
Monarch Airlines, another holiday one, 2017.
Yeah.
A couple of charter ones over here as well. Who else? There was someone else big here that went under. I cannot remember. Big European name. Honestly, it's lost me. There was a big airline. Well, there is airlines that are going to go under eventually. Norwegian, they won't be around. Virgin Atlantic potentially as well. They're not doing too well.
Yeah, they just filed Chapter 15 in the US.
Yeah,
which is not a great start.
Well, Canada trip. I'm actually still waiting for some money back from them. It was for the upper deck seat. I'm still waiting for the money back. But I booked all the flights through Delta, so I got all that back. But I'm just waiting this money for the seat, because you can't do it in Delta site, but you can do it in Virgin site. So I need to wait and see.
Yeah,
been trying for a little while, but eventually it'll come in. Hopefully.
I hope so.
It's not much. It's not that much, but it's just annoying that it's been such a wait.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I want to go back to Prestwick, because we've been talking about it a little bit already, and Prestwick seems to get a lot of interesting visitors.
Yes.
So I made a little compilation of some of the more rarer aircraft that come on the to Prestwick.
Yep.
I took some of your footage and made a quick 45-second compilation here.
Okay.
Can you see the screen?
Yes, I can see the screen.
Excellent. Let's go watch this. Of course, with the cherry on the cake there, the Antonov 225 last week. But these were just a couple clips that came from your channel. What is it with Prestwick? Not even the biggest airport in Scotland, but what is it with Prestwick that it gets such incredible traffic over there?
There's actually a few reasons, but that clip is literally the tip of the iceberg of what we get. We get so much more. Like, it's unreal, the stuff that's been in, especially in the last couple of years. Things have really picked up again, which is good. Well, we're the biggest runway in Scotland. So we're literally like the main airport for like Antonovs, cargo flights, stuff like that, because we can handle them better. Prestwick's got 10,000 feet runway, which is mile and a half long, maybe nearly 2 miles. Edinburgh and Glasgow, 7,800 meter, 7,800 feet runways to about 8,000 feet runways, the two of them. They can only really get long haul flights at the most. They can't get stuff like the Antonov military flights because they don't have the runway length to handle it. And especially Glasgow has some terrain that would make it a little dodgy. Like, for instance, this hill's 5 miles from the airport and close to the kind of main runway side. To the left, there's some hills there as well. They're quite elevated. And then to the north of Glasgow is Loch Lomond. Edinburgh is more to the kind of as well. They don't have as many hills, but it's just the runway length that really hinders them. Prestwick's also got the stands and the equipment to do it as well. And it dates back to 40s, 50s and 60s. Because during World War II, Prestwick actually used to be a military base. Like, the satellite images of Prestwick, tons and tons of USAF stuff, you name it, RAF stuff, all based here for invading Nazi Germany and help assist the Allies. Like, it was a big base. And then transatlantic travel was pioneered through Prestwick. And we still had transatlantic routes up until the early 2000s, when some still operated but eventually moved to Glasgow and Edinburgh because of transatlantic rights. Prestwick was the only airport that could operate these flights. But now that's all changed. So, and its location as well. There's a lot of factors. Like Prestwick, if you look on the map, Prestwick's right at the perfect zone for the transatlantic crossings. It's big enough runway, and it's right next to the Atlantic Ocean. Like, even though Ireland, you could say, is closer, Shannon's a big one for stopping and stuff. Prestwick still has that bigger runway, and that's why it gets as much traffic as it does. It's got the facilities, it's got everything it really needs, and it's really the location and the rights thing years ago. So it is, to say the least, a very interesting airport to spot at, and it's a very, very well talked about airport worldwide. Like, if there's an airport people know apart from London Heathrow in the UK, has to be Prestwick or Manchester. Like, probably Prestwick more so than anything else because of what it gets, how significant it is to the history of transatlantic travel. It's a really significant airport. Not so much now, but still is very significant, and it will never close.
Yes, I think the location definitely helps.
Yeah.
And it's fairly close. Like, if you like, Shannon is usually one of those airports that is being used with narrow bodies to cross the Atlantic.
Yes.
757s, but I think that happens in Prestwick as well, right?
Yes. We get a lot. Well, Shannon gets a lot of military stuff as well. We get a lot of military stuff. We get US Air Force. We get all the big fuel tankers like KC-10, C-17s.
Mm-hmm.
Shannon tends to get more of like the C-130 Herculeses going across. Belfast in recent years seems to get them as well. Same with some C-17s and a couple of tankers. But Prestwick always seems to get more of a share off it, and so does Shannon. Belfast is just somewhere that's recently kind of came on the scene as another airport, but their runway capacity, their runway length really limits them and what they can handle. And the thing with Belfast is it's still an active military site at one part of the airport, which not that many folk outside the UK will know. Is you've got the terminal, and then south of that there's actually an active military kind of hangar and an active military centre set bit of the airport.
Mm-hmm.
So it is pretty well utilised. But anyways, Prestwick's mainly runway length and location are the two main factors.
In terms of like passengers, a couple of years ago, like the statistics I was able to find is Prestwick had 9 million passengers and Edinburgh had 12 million.
You mean what? Glasgow had 9 million passengers?
Glasgow
had 9 million. Yeah, Glasgow had 9 million. Prestwick had nowhere near that amount, but anyways.
Oh,
you're getting them mixed up.
Yeah. Oh, do I mixed up?
There's two airports in Glasgow. Well, there's one airport. Glasgow Prestwick is Ryanair's doing.
So Glasgow and Prestwick are two different airports.
Yes.
Oops.
Glasgow Prestwick is it's fine, don't worry about it. Kind of jumped down on you a bit there, but just see when general people like around say, "Oh, it's Glasgow Prestwick," and I'm like, it annoys me when they say it. So Glasgow Airport is Glasgow City's main airport, and then Prestwick's separate. Glasgow
Right.
Airport was only built in the 70s.
Yeah.
Edinburgh's been around since the 40s as well, like Prestwick. But Prestwick is its own airport. It's just named that because of Ryanair.
Yeah.
But we only had 670,000 passengers last year. I was actually one of them for like the first time in like 8 years. If I'm being brutally honest, Prestwick's really not good to fly from at all. Like as a passenger flying with Ryanair, like it was ridiculously expensive in the departures lounge. It was very dark. It was very disorganized. Like the security wasn't great either. It's just a very out of date airport.
Mm-hmm.
Like seeing the departure, a bacon roll, like a roll with bacon in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how much, like in Canadian dollars, that one roll that was small was $10 probably, like $10 for this roll.
Like
and
£6.
it was like £6, which is like £6. I'm like, that is literally absurd prices to pay for a roll in an airport.
Yes.
Like you would expect like maybe $5 or $6 Canadian, £2 or £3, or €3 or €4, but not $10 or £6, like which is absurd to pay for a roll, which is like that size. It's absurd.
I it's probably that they're preying on holiday, like tourists who are on a holiday mindset, and they're ready to spend money.
They are. That's literally what it is. Like my parents got some breakfast, a couple of rolls, and I'm like, I'm genuinely just going to get a sandwich. I'm like, I'm not having them pay. They can pay for it, but I'm like, I'm buying myself a sandwich. Like it was cheaper. I was getting more for money. I'm like, it's just absurd to pay for a roll.
Yeah. I totally hadn't expected that. I didn't even know why.
It's great for spotting in traffic, but in terms of flying from, avoid it unless you've got a really cheap flight.
Yeah. So Glasgow gets 9 million.
Yep.
How's that? Is Glasgow just that popular compared to Edinburgh, or?
Well, Edinburgh's more passengers. Edinburgh's was 14 million last year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, COVID is really going to affect that, and it'll be interesting to see what the figures will be.
Yeah.
But the thing with Edinburgh is in Glasgow's a very expensive airport for airlines to fly into.
Mm-hmm.
Edinburgh's cheaper. The thing with Edinburgh is though, they've got a new terminal bit now. But Glasgow's actually the third most expensive airport to land in Europe. So basically, a lot of airlines will choose Edinburgh because it's cheaper. Glasgow's too expensive to fly into, even though it has great facilities. A lot of airlines will either operate more out of Edinburgh or operate out of both.
Right.
Which is quite an interesting one. Like Delta operates New York, JFK, from Glasgow and Edinburgh. Same with United. But United, I think, are pulling their route completely now.
Yeah.
Our American used to operate out of Glasgow exclusively. Then went Glasgow to Edinburgh, and now exclusively Edinburgh.
And what aircraft did they use for that then?
It would all be 757s. Not now though. Delta, American. I don't know what they'll use next year because 757's another COVID victim, I guess, with aircraft types.
Yeah.
But the 757s have been around longer than many would have thought back in the 80s.
A 757, I've only flown it for the first time last year, but I keep finding...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's mostly just because KLM hasn't operated the 757 ever, I believe.
Yeah.
And so whenever we'd go somewhere far away, we'd fly in a 777 or a 747. And then the short haul is either the Embraers or the 737s, or before then the Fokker 100s and Fokker 70s, which I don't think I've ever flown. But
Fokker
no,
70s were the rare ones.
Yeah. So, but I other than that, out of Holland, there wasn't really any 757 traffic. So last year when I went to meet up with Blake, I made it a circle in North America to fly first to Blake, then together with Blake on the MD-88. Then also the Delta A220 and the Delta 757. And that was my first time on a 757. But it's a fascinating aircraft because it is one of the fewer narrow bodies and that's of course going to change with the A321neos. But one of the
A321 neos are going to be
but it was
really
one of the
big.
few aircraft that flew transatlantic.
Atlantic. Do you know what? I actually think they did use them in the Pacific to Hawaii. Like a lot of American flights, like American Delta and United use them to Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
I could probably check Flight Radar right now and you would find one.
Mm-hmm.
The thing with the 757 is it was originally built. I remember reading this. It was originally built just for short haul, high capacity. Then like, wait a minute, we can use these across the Atlantic. So basically, once the aircraft was finished but production 2 years later, airlines like, we need to keep these. We can operate new routes, and that's why it's been around so long. Is nothing's been able to replace it, and Boeing's made a big mistake not bringing it back. But it's a great aircraft to fly on. It's really comfy, quiet. It's really a class of its own. 2018, I flew on two A1s, two Airways.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they were the cheapest, and we went to Lanzarote from Glasgow, and it was actually really good flights. We had extra legroom seats, really comfortable flying, and it was nice. I really enjoyed it. And 757, I'd say, is a much nicer aircraft to fly on than some of the newer ones actually out there. But
how would you compare it to, for instance, a 737 MAX, a much more modern?
Not flown in a MAX yet, but I'd probably prefer the 757 any day over the MAX. It may have an updated cabin, but I just think the 757, just avgeek reasons and just in general, just it's a class of its own. The 737 MAX, at the end of the day, is just another 737. It's not special. It's just an NG with new engines and new winglets that's also grounded at the moment, but which isn't very good, but surely they'll be back in the skies eventually.
Delta actually does a phenomenal job in modernizing the cabins. Like when I got onto the 757 with them, I was not able to tell that it was like a 20-year-old aircraft.
Yeah, I mean, Delta's cabins are a class of their own. Their economy looks amazing. The touch screens, they really know how to do their cabins. Like, love to fly Delta one day. Was meant to, but maybe soon, hopefully. I'd love to fly them. Like, they're an airline I just would fly. I don't care what type it is. I want to fly them. They look really good and exceptional. And a lot of people, I mean, their customer, for the refunds with COVID, their customer service was exceptional. It was sorted within 2 days. Like, is this your booking reference? Yeah. This, how are you getting on? It was just questions that you wouldn't think it'd come from. Like, how are you doing? You coping okay? Stay safe. It was extra level of customer service was at Delta, and like, it's like they're a huge airline, but they're a really good airline customer service wise from experience. Like, they seem to know what they're doing.
Yeah, I enjoy flying Delta. I haven't really had to deal with their customer service yet, but yeah, great airline, absolutely.
Put it this way, I've had to deal with WestJet, Air Canada, EasyJet, and Virgin Atlantic over lockdown for refunds and whatnot, flight vouchers. Delta's by far the best customer service I've dealt with out of those four, and probably out of all the other airlines. I genuinely think Delta is the best customer service I've dealt with in terms of airlines. It's closely followed by KLM for customer service.
Yeah, interesting. Should be part of a trip report. Although a good experience is not having to deal with customer service in the first place.
Yes. Yes. It's not really a part of the trip report. It's the flight attendants and actually being on the plane decided, not the background stuff, booking the flights, planning the flights, packing. That's not really part of the trip report.
It is as important though. Like,
yeah,
we have already spoken about it a little bit, because like you just look at Flight Radar and that's how you decide what you want to book. But what is it you usually look at in the first place when you are booking your trips?
For unusual flights or like different aircraft types, always Flight Radar, or even Facebook actually. There's a group called Special Flights in Facebook, Special Flights Enthusiasts, and that's really good for finding out different routes that the airlines operate. But apart from that, if I'm looking genuinely going away or trying to find a cheap flight, I'll usually use Skyscanner or Google Flights, find all the flight times. So when I booked this thing to France last year, Transavia France was there. Although they were £10 more, and I wanted to try them more than Vuelogs because I'd flew with them before, their times worked better. So I spent the extra kind of bit of money. Their times worked better, still cheap enough, but it made sense to go with Vueling rather than Transavia France.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'll do is it gives me a big fare like thing, so like I can see all the different fares, all the different airlines as well. And to double check that fare, I'll go straight onto the airline's website. So when I went to Vueling, I went, right, is this fare actually the right fare? Clicked on the website, it was, and like, right, wrote it down in a bit of paper, planned everything else, and I booked that flight.
Do you generally book straight with the airline, or?
Yes, airline straight away. Unless it's a quote like what I've done with the Delta. It was a through ticket, so it was better booking the different airlines flight with the different airline because it was cheaper and it was easier as well. It gave me a better deal. So through tickets with different airlines or direct with the airlines is what I tend to book.
That makes sense. Yeah. I want to show another clip actually. This, and it comes around with Alex's podcast because one of Alex's most watched videos is an emergency landing that he's had with a WestJet 767. I think it's like 1.5 million times that it's been watched. Your most watched video currently is nearing 1 million, which is a fifth of your total view count you have in your
view base. Yeah, it's unreal.
Also,
I don't actually know what it's at now. I haven't really checked in a while, so this is going to be a bit of a surprise for me when you put it on the view count.
I can show it right here, if you can see it.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, that's grown. Last time I checked, it was at 920,000. Wow.
Well, there's another 20,000 views here for you.
Yeah.
We're just gonna watch a couple seconds here, and then I would like to hear from you what the backstory is here. When you were recording this, did you immediately knew that this was gonna be something that was gonna be your most watched video?
There's actually two funny stories to this video. Actually, firstly, it was my first time filming with a camcorder, putting it out on YouTube. So the new camcorder came in with a bang. Basically, it just came in like that. Secondly, my friend, one of my good mates, Jonathan Winton, who I was filming with, he'd been up 2 days straight coming back from Poland. He'd just been up 2 days straight. He hadn't slept. And it literally took us like a week to comprehend what had actually happened that day. Because I'd met him at the terminal and we went round to the spot, which was the Logany hangar, right? And I was like, all right, do you want to head round to the spot now? He's like, yeah, sure. Because we wanted to move round to the other side. And he's like, Dan, is American 767 coming in from emergency landing? I'm like, all right, okay, we'll film that. Filmed it, we uploaded it that day, and it wasn't until like the day later we actually really comprehended what had actually happened to the plane. It had an oil leak and they had to shut down one engine. So both our videos got shared a few places. They were pretty much neck and neck. But then do you remember the American 767 in 2016? So this video was probably sitting around 100k. The American 767 in 2016 that had the fire, this video was recommended a lot, signed it. So even though it'd been out for a year and a half, it wasn't until then it just went viral because that was a big accident that happened and it was alongside it, so it went viral because of that other accident. But it literally took us a week to comprehend what had happened, that we just didn't know. Between the two of us, we've easily probably got 1,200,000 views between our two videos. Mine's obviously is the most viewed one, and I think Jonathan's is on about 300,000. So easily between the two of us, that has got over 1 million. So and it's been big for us both. Like we always look back on it as one of those spotting trips. It was just a day out at Glasgow, and it just turned into so much more.
That's
First proper emergency landing, and it was pretty major one.
that is incredible. Yeah, like Alex also was not. Obviously, you don't plan to go to an airport to watch an emergency
No,
landing,
no.
but you have to be there to be able to capture it, right?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
so you couldn't have seen it coming, as in like the
No.
view count that you have right now, like 1 million
Yes.
views. How do you even comprehend that?
To put it into perspective, that's literally the populations of Glasgow and Edinburgh watched that video, which is an insane amount of people. Like, Scotland's only got 5.5, 6 million people. So that video is technically being viewed by a sixth of the country I live in, which is huge. It puts things into perspective. That's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people indeed. Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot of people.
And then it's also like, if you look at your the rest of your channel, like nothing comes close to the view count that you have. Like your second most watched video is the Drake and Douglas A4N, which is at 580,000.
Yeah, that's the video that spiked before the Antonov. That's the one that's been spiking a lot. But funnily enough, at the start of last year, that only had 50,000 views. It just started randomly spiking. And I'm like, okay, I'll take that. Don't know where it was shared on some website, some military website. I really don't know where it was shared, I mean, honest. And it just started flying up in views. I'm like, subscribers as well. I'm like, okay, I'll take this. Because it's been on the channel just sitting there for about 3 years, and it's just all of a sudden get tons of views. But that's the thing with Prestwick, going back to what we said earlier. Prestwick's a very talked about airport. And having all these videos on YouTube, you just don't know if you're going to have a video that's just going to spike like crazy one day. It's just sitting there. It's just sitting there waiting to happen, technically. Because it's such an important and relevant airport.
To be fair, you've uploaded 516 videos right now.
Yeah.
So
a lot of videos.
That is a lot of videos, yeah. So it's no surprise that some videos are gonna spike then. But
yes.
1 million views, that is
insane.
That's insane. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think my biggest video right now is like 15,000 views.
Still a lot of views, trust me. It's
still a lot
whole
of
population. Views. That's the whole population of Prestwick has watched that, basically. If that puts it into perspective, because we're literally 15,000 people live in this town. So,
where do you see the channel grow to?
What do you mean, like?
What
want it to grow to?
What do you have, like a plan or a roadmap of what you want to do and where you want to see the channel at in a couple of years?
10K was what I was wanting at the end of this year. Last year it was 8K, just about scraped it, doubled the channel size pretty much. This year I wanted those 5 figures, and I'm on course to set that. That's fine. I would ideally probably end of next year 15,000 would roughly where I want it to be. 4,000 or 5,000. If I can get 3,000 to 5,000 a year in subscriber growth, I'd be quite happy with that. Or less, whatever it is. 2019 I didn't necessarily have as much growth in subscribers, but I had the view growth in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd like to see it maybe at 25K in the next 3-4 years. So I'd like to really grow. I mean, the thing with YouTube is it's literally a game. You don't know what's next. It could just blow up, and you could have 100,000 subscribers in a few weeks. It's one of them.
Yeah.
Bit optimistic, but if I could have 25,000 subscribers maybe the next 4 or 5 years, I'd be quite happy with that. Like 3 and 4K a year, that is doable, depending on what comes into Prestwick, what trip reports, what there is. It really all depends.
You've been doing the trip reports for about 3 years now.
Yeah.
Have you noticed your audience receiving it differently? Because obviously the type of subscribers that you had were more of the AvGeek kind of subscribers. Have your type of subscribers that you've had changed?
Yes, in a way they have. Before, it was basically just the aviation enthusiasts that subscribed and a couple of general people. But then when I started to tailor the flight videos to more trip reports about 2.5-3 years ago, and then eventually full trip reports and now voiceovers, I've noticed a lot of more people that wouldn't take an interest in it, actually paying attention to it and actually watching them. there's a couple of people that like I know that aren't really interested in aviation, but they watch my trip reports just because it's interesting. It's something different, and it's more of a general thing, the experience. Because like traveling, they want to know what they're traveling, like what their travel experience is going to be like, even though it's a small part of it. A lot of general audiences want to know what that experience is like.
Yeah.
Because travel is very much an experience-based thing, and trip reports are very much an experience-based video. How you found your experience.
Absolutely.
So I've noticed my audience is now still majority av geeks, but I'd say there's probably about 75-80% of those subscribers are still pure aviation. But I'd say a good 20%, especially about half my trip report viewers, aren't aviation enthusiasts. I'd say they're more general people want to see what the experience is like. But in plane spot and stuff, yeah, mostly. But trip reports, I'd say it's actually probably half and half.
Yeah. So I think then you'll have to finish that one video that you
Yes,
still have to do the voiceover for.
Really need to. I mean, this is quite bad. It's been edited since I'm actually going to just show you how bad this is, how long it's been sitting there for. It has genuinely, right, maybe a couple of tweaks to the audio, but any last major change to it was probably like the 8th of June, it says. 8th of June was the last like major change, then a couple of changes in the 8th of July. So it's been edited for 2 months. I just do the voiceovers. That's not even a good thing that it's taken me this long.
It's the really 9th of August right now.
Yeah, it's 2 months. Like, I'll try and... Well, this podcast will probably go out when I hope to get the video out, like a few days later.
Saturday.
So basically, yeah, I'm going to try and go for Saturday or Sunday next week as well. We're recording this on the 9th of August. So I'll try and get it out next weekend. I'm going to try. I'm going to stick to it and try and actually get it out.
I'm going to hold you accountable for it.
Yeah. We're on the podcast. His podcast with Dan. He's not put that trip report out. Yeah. Just not had the time over the past few months as well with other commitments and stuff like work, but because my work's been short staffed, like although I work part time, one of the guys in my work that's the supervisor, he's 71, shielding still because of the COVID, same with another one of the part time ones. So everyone that's part time's had to pick up extra shifts and fill in. So that's why I've not really had the time, is I've pretty much been working 4 and 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Not ideal, but can't really complain about it, to be honest. It's a little bit extra, but need to do what I can to help out.
Yeah, makes sense. That's very nice of you. I want to move on to the questions from viewers.
Oh no,
you've dreaded.
I have dreaded. It's the unknown, because I don't actually know what people are going to ask me, because this is like this as I said to you before we started. This is my first ever podcast, like ever. So I don't know what's in store. This is going to be really interesting. Like, I think my facial expression, like I might be a bit red faced, or maybe just start laughing at a question because I don't know. This is going to be interesting. Bring it on.
Because this is the part in the podcast where you can bring in your questions for the guests, and as always, I share the next guest on my Twitter and Instagram profile. So make sure to follow me there if you don't do that already. So you'll be notified immediately when I announce my next guest, and you'll be able to send in questions for the guest, which you have done as well for Daniel here. He's dreading it, but yeah. I don't think that they're going to be too terrible. So thank you so much for sending in questions. Keep doing so. And also make sure to share this video with your favorite creator so that we can have them on the podcast as well next time. So, Daniel, I'm going to get the questions here for you. Starting off with the first one here from Geek Evan. Which is the longest nonstop flight you have taken?
Probably we've just been to Orlando. 2010. It was like because the Atlantic jet stream was so strong, it was 10 hours. That's the longest flight I've ever taken. Mm-hmm. And the only other long haul flights, Air Transit, which was when I done last year. Avgi Kevin is also from Prestwick, so I actually know Avgi Kevin. So hello, Evan.
Perfect. Let's see. The second question here is Toronto Pearson Air Spotter. Kevin, thank you so much for sending in a question again. What is your favorite special livery?
That is a very tough question. That's really actually got me to think. Do you know, I do seem to like retros a lot. Like a lot of the retros. They're pretty cool. Don't know, there's just something about being retro. Like, it's different. It's nostalgic in a way. It's nice to see retros. I seem to prefer retros more than actual full-on special liveries. But like, if there's a full-on special livery, I'd probably say the a couple of the football ones are really nice, like the Etihad 787. That's really nice. It's a really nice livery. But I think retros are probably the best. Just anything retro is just nice and nostalgic.
Anything retro, yeah. First thing that comes up in my mind would be Iceland Air.
Yes, Hecla and Aurora, cannot forget them. They're just iconic. They're really nice. They really suit. Seen both of them actually. They're really nice liveries.
Yeah. Thank you. Next one was actually technically sent to you, Douglas.
Oh, I can know what this one is.
What's your favorite airport for spotting in the UK?
Prestwick. That's an obvious one. Prestwick with the traffic. If it was to exclude Prestwick from it, though, it would be a tough one. If it was to exclude Prestwick, I'd probably say maybe Edinburgh or Heathrow, maybe. Heathrow, because the amount of traffic you see is really good. Always go down every year. Not this year, but obviously with the COVID. I'd probably say Heathrow and Edinburgh in terms if I was excluding Prestwick. But Prestwick, hands down. Nothing comes close to Prestwick.
Because when you were planning to go to North America this in May, you were supposed to go to Atlanta as well. Were you planning on spotting there?
Yeah. Yes, I was looking into it, but obviously I knew the trip was getting cancelled, so I never really properly got to look into it. Like, I looked into the museum, but it would be open by the time I landed, and it depends on how tired I was. I probably would have done a couple of hours in Atlanta before flying onwards to Toronto, but if I'm being honest, I only really looked at one spot, and then lockdown happened, and I knew the trip was getting cancelled, basically.
Yeah. And like a couple of your videos are spotting in different places.
Yeah.
How's Toulouse?
Toulouse is actually really good for someone. Still to visit the city, like Toulouse has always been like a kind of stopover point, or I've been there for work reasons, but it's an interesting airport with all the delivery flights and the spots are pretty good as well. It's a nice airport. I'd like to see the city one day.
Mm-hmm.
Like whenever I go on a trip, like always have to see the city. And if I do spotting, I always have to spend more time in the city, because what's the point in plane spotting when you're not seeing the area you're visiting? Like, I like experiencing cultures and different foods and stuff. Like, big food person, you say. Really like my food. So that's essential. Have to experience the culture, the city, and some of the food.
Perfect.
Not everything's about planes.
That's very healthy.
Yeah.
Next question is Scottish Traveller 66, and he's asking Glasgow Celtic or Rangers?
Celtic. He knows this one. Celtic. He knows this answer. Celtic all the way. 10 in a row is coming. 10 in a row is coming. He's probably going to be watching this, and he'll be like, I shouldn't have asked that question.
Is he a Rangers fan or?
Yes, he's a Rangers fan. Football's a very big thing here. So basically, as bad as this sounds, most of the other Scottish teams in like the top league are irrelevant. It's just about Celtic and Rangers. But for the past 9 seasons, soon to be 10 seasons, Celtic have won the league, and it'll happen again next year. But Rangers are now given competition. They're actually a decent enough side to give competition. So it's good to see. But it will be Celtic. all the way. Celtic all the way.
So he knew the answer to this already.
He knew the answer, but I think he wanted to see my answer on the podcast.
Cool.
Next question. Fair enough,
Next question here is from Neil Smith, who we had on the podcast last episode.
All right.
He said, I have a question for Daniel. He's got a decent number of subscribers. And what's his advice on growing a subscriber base? And he said, excellent choice of a guest too. I really like his videos. Well, there you have that compliment.
Thank you very much for the compliment. I'll take that on board. Well, the thing with growth is with YouTube, it's a lot harder now. Like, it's really from me and Alex started and Jonathan Linton and a couple of other ones. It was easier to grow because there wasn't as many of us. Now, cameras are so much more common. Everyone really wants to become one. It's so much harder. So as long as you just stick to what you're doing and create your own style. So I'll be honest, I've not really looked at any of Neil's stuff, and I probably should give him a follow on Twitter because I don't think I follow him. But if you're doing trip reports, as long as you make your own unique style, have your own unique touch to it, your own unique way of doing things, then you should be able to gain a base. Like, I know Robin, you've got your own unique style to it. Blake's got his own style. Nick's got his own style. Alex has got his own style, and we've all got our own like little unique ways of making it. And if you can be unique, you'll stand out. It's always about being creative as well. If you can be creative and unique with what you do, you'll gain subscribers.
Yeah, I don't think that should be a problem for Neil. I like Neil's work, and he's really got his own style.
That's what you want.
And he spends more time in the lounge and on the aircraft. So
the thing as well is, with me, I seem to go on things that are being retired or have been retired. If you can find unique flights or something that no one's covered and bring your unique kind of style to it. So say, I don't know, there's Evolup is a Spanish charter airline, right? And he flew with them. I don't think he will. And no everyone else done a trip report on it. And that trip report went viral. It's about finding somewhat a gap that there's no video on and then bringing something unique to it with being creative. That's your best ways of getting growth, especially trip reports. Spotting side of things, it's a luck game, really. You just need to hope you catch something and hope for the best. It's not as trip reports, it's easier to explain. Spotting's a bit hard. It's just your luck, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I hope he should be fine.
Hope that helps.
Yes. No, he should be fine. He's got his own touch in his.
That's
his
good.
video,
That's really what you need, Neil.
He's using humor and lots of drinking. So
key things. Humor is key.
Yes.
People don't want to watch someone that's boring. They want to watch something that's interesting.
That's why I don't understand why people watch my videos. Next question is from our dear friend Alex Verglowski. What's the most expensive flight you've taken? You've ever made a trip report on, and then not just Canadian Airlines because they're just expensive.
It'd probably be the Thomas Cook one. Again, Thomas Cook going to Orlando, and then my trip to Canada. They're probably the two most expensive flights. I really can't remember the Thomas Cook Premium Economy one, but I'm pretty sure that was £600-700 for the two flights. It was pretty expensive. It was peak summer. It's a popular destination for, as you know, it's pretty much the holiday spot. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, Thomas Cook and Transit then.
Cool. Next question is from Maddie Jones.
Oh, no, I think I know what this is going to be. I think I know this. I'm friends with Matthew, actually. Let's see what he's got in store.
Ask him about the Stefan incident. He'll know exactly what that means when you do.
What incident?
The Stefan.
Oh.
Is that something that you want to talk about on the podcast?
We'll leave that one. We'll leave that one, actually. That's not actually what I expected him to say. I was expecting something completely. We'll leave that question.
Okay, sure enough.
Put it this way. It was just a carry on, you know. When you're with your friends, you have a little carry on and a joke. That's all it really is, and we'll just leave it as a carry on, and it's a joke that will between certain individuals.
Sure.
But Matthew would actually be an interesting one to get on the podcast. But I'll get onto that in a minute when we get onto that section.
Yeah. Next and final question is from Nick. It's a lot of people who've been on the show here who send in the questions. And he's asking, here's a question for Dan. If Dan had to choose between the following two, which one would it be? A, keeping his car, but no desserts for the rest of his life, or dessert, but he has to give up his car.
See, Nick knows how cautious I've been with my new car, and he knows how much I love desserts. Like, he knows how much I love my food. It's like, he knows, it's like, every time it's like, desserts. Every time we're out, has to be a dessert. And he's like, I've never known anyone that just loves desserts. It's just like, yep. Don't like crisps as much. Don't mind chocolate. Desserts and cakes, that's where it's at. It's a hard one. The thing with a car is it's replaceable. So, like, I could get rid of it, then maybe get another one that's cheaper and I'd get a different car and then still have my desserts. So I would probably still stick with desserts if I had to give up the car.
I think that's cheating.
I need my food. But then he says I have to get rid of the car. He doesn't say what I have to do with the car. So I could just sell it, buy a cheaper one, and still have desserts, or buy a new car altogether and still have desserts, you know?
That's a loophole that right there. I don't think he thought of that.
No, he didn't.
Okay. Well, sorry, Nick. Probably not the answer that you were looking for. But yeah, those were the questions. Were they as bad as you thought they were going to be?
No, not as bad. Just, I wasn't sure. Knew Matt would answer the question, but I was just like, what's he going to put? But I'll leave that question. It's just a bit of a joke between me, him, and a few others, and we'll keep it that way. We'll keep it that way.
That's one of those things that you're only discussing in the group when you're drinking.
Yeah, well, we weren't really drinking. That's the thing. We were driving when it happened, but no more. It's just a joke between us.
Let's not make it a thing here.
Yes.
Perfect. Well, then finally we'll be moving on to the last part of the podcast today, because with every podcast episode we also test the knowledge on planes that the guests have. And when Alex was on the show here a couple weeks ago, Daniel was the one who provided the photos, and he made it a bit more challenging for Alex. But Alex still did really well because he is still on top of the top of the leaderboards. Still following is with 14 pictures. Guest ride was So Plain. Billy Gilbert is still in third place with 13. Jeb Brooks and John from Trizzy Traveling still have 12 right. Julius from Fly Around has 9 planes that he was able to identify. Blake Edgerton is now on par with New Smith, who came in 6th place last episode. Noel Phillips is still in 7th place with 5. And Dennis Bunnick, by the way, congratulations with your 100,000 subscriber milestone. Congratulations.
Big congrats on that as well, yeah.
Yeah, but here, unfortunately, he's still on the bottom with only 4. Alex was happy enough to provide the photos for this episode. So he can kind of take revenge on Daniel today. I hope he has made it a bit of a challenge and not as bad as he did with Noel Phillips. But
we shall see if I can beat him. I'm determined to beat Alex. If I can beat Alex, I think it'll be quite funny. But he's made it difficult. I can tell. It would be incredible.
Yeah.
It would be.
By the way, of course, you can take some pen and paper at home as well, play along, and then show us your score in the comments down below. I'm going to grab my phone here for a timer. And then, you know how it works, Daniel? It's 1 minute to identify as many aircraft as you can.
That's fine.
You don't have to know the carrier. You don't have to know the variant per se. It doesn't give you any points. It's just the aircraft type. And then if you don't know what it is, you can pass. Alex has lined up 25 photos for you. So
let's see if we can do it.
Exactly. I'm just going to share the screen with you. So if you can just confirm if you can see the logo here.
Yes, I can see that.
Perfect. Then
tell me when you're ready to start.
Yep, I am ready. So
let's go for it.
Let's go for it. 3. Oh, hold on. I need to.
Oh, the timer went.
No, I need to have the list of aircraft ready for me, so I don't have to second guess. All right, I got it ready. It's empty.
That was just my bin. That's what that sound was. Bit loud.
That's okay. Perfect. Well,
ready?
If you're ready, and 3, 2, 1.
That is a TBM 850.
Pilatus.
Oh, I can't believe I got that one wrong. That is a CRJ 700.
200, but I still count it.
Oh, pass. I don't know that one at all. Oh, is it Electra?
Yes.
Buffalo. That looks like a Dash 8 with the wheel.
Dash 7.
A Starlines 767? No, 330.
Yes, correct.
That looks like a Dornier 328.
Yes, correct.
757 Max.
700, but it's still 7.
CL 215 water bomber.
Yes.
717.
Yeah. Yes.
That looks like an A320.
No.
767 200.
Yes. Time.
No, not Bam. Not Bam. It was that one.
Yeah.
It was the it was that one, the prop one that I had to pass that just threw me off. What am I on?
8.
Miles off.
It's not bad. You're on par with Blake Edgington and Neil Smith. I don't think that's a very bad position.
I'll take it.
In 6th place. So
I'll take it.
Well done. That's not too bad. And it was a challenge. It was very challenging.
Yes.
I think Alex did you well there.
Yes, he did. Considering my one, the ones I sent in for him. Nick even bet me. Nick bet me.
Nick did beat you. Yes,
Nick will be very chuffed with that. He'll be watching this. He'll get a message like, "Yep, I bet you. I'm like, well done, well done."
No, I think considering that they were really tough, that a score of 8 is very well done. Congratulations, Daniel. That's very well done. They were tough. I'm surprised though that you didn't get the Pilatus.
No, I'm surprised that as well. It just looks like a TBM with the way the prop was. And then when you said PC-12, the way the winglet was, I'm like, whoops. Maybe should have got that one considering a lot of them come through Prestwick.
Yes. Oh, is it?
Yeah, a lot of them come through. On delivery, a lot of them come through from Switzerland where they built Basel straight to here, then Reykjavik, and then across. Because a lot of them go across to America and Canada from here.
Yeah, I've flown one in America.
Oh, nice.
Yes, but
not been on one.
Yeah, it is really the winglet that gives it away.
Yeah,
very distinct.
Yeah,
but I think you did well. And with that, we've reached the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for being on. How did you like it?
It was really good, actually. First podcast was pretty enjoyable. Wasn't sure how it was going to go. The questions I was slightly dreading, but seemed to have been all right. First for everything, I guess. And well, this podcast, I mean, this is like the first time people have got to see me like off script, I guess, chatting to a camera, compared to some of the trip reports that are slightly scripted and whatnot. So a bit different to what I usually do.
Well, excellent. I was very happy to have you on, and it's been a lot of fun. And the question, of course, is coming. Who do you like to see on a future episode?
Jonathan Winton would be a really good person to get on.
Mhm.
Actually, he absolutely loves Ryanair. I have never known a person that loves Ryanair as much as him. Like, it is his favorite airline. He loves Ryanair. Like, most of his flights, 9 out of 10 of his flights are on Ryanair, and he'd give you a really interesting perspective, not just on Ryanair, but on low cost travel in general. And his thoughts on it would be really interesting. He's a good mate of mine. I've known him for years. He'd be a good one. And the Matty Jones Aviation Up Close, he is actually saying he loves Jet 2. He absolutely loves Jet 2. And he's right into like his flight simming and stuff. So he does four Jet 2 sectors in a day and flight sim. He just constantly does Jet 2. He really enjoys it. And he's training to be a pilot as well. So he would be another one that might be an interesting one to get on the podcast. I don't know if he would actually use the camera. It might just be an icon for him. I'm not sure. But he would be a really interesting person to get on. And if you're looking for someone big, I think QFS Aviation
Quinton,
would be a big one. Yes, he'd be. I don't really know him personally, but he'd be a really good one to get on, considering he's just bought MD-80s. He'd be a really interesting one to get on.
Alex said the exact same thing. Yes.
Yeah. Really interesting to see what he has to say. It'd be a really interesting podcast. Trying to think if there's anyone else. Not really, to be honest. I think that pretty much covers the ones. Probably Jonathan would be a really good one. Matthew, Aviation Up Close, and Quinton would be three interesting guests.
Cool.
Jonathan because he's love for Ryanair. Matt because he's love for Jet 2, trains to be a pilot, and flight simming. And then you've got Quinton with the MD-80. It'd be a very interesting podcast for you.
Cool. Noted. Well, thank you very much, Daniel, for being on the podcast. I had a lot of fun.
Same here. Really good.
Excellent. Thank you so much for watching this latest episode of the Vuelogs Crosscheck Podcast. We're about an hour and a half in, so it's not as long as the one's last one with Neil, but certainly had a lot of fun and touched all the subjects that I wanted to talk about. Next week, we're hopefully back with another episode of the podcast, hopefully with another interesting guest. So thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the podcast. Daniel, congratulations with getting 8 identified aircraft. And thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.